We've all seen, or maybe you've even participated in, group cold plunges. That's where a bunch of people strip down to a swimsuit and get into a body of water in the middle of a snowy winter. Sometimes it's for fun, sometimes it's for charity, and sometimes it's for your health. Now people are doing it at home. I'm Lexi, and this is Delightfully Different. I've been seeing celebrities doing this lately, including on Live with Kelly and Mark. Mark and Gelman got into an ice bath on the show. My next guest has been doing it on the regular and posting it online. He also happens to be my former co-host on the radio. I asked if he would tell us about why he gets into an ice bath almost every day, and he said yes.
Hi, I'm Jared, and I cold plunge every day.
Now, is cold plunging, I thought it was called ice baths.
So ice baths, cold plunging, it's all kind of the same thing. It's, a tradition that goes back literally thousands of years through lots of different cultures that have been doing it. Russians, a lot of the Slavic countries, Norwegians, even Native and Indigenous American communities have been doing it for literal centuries for its health benefits. So.
I guess I didn't realize it had such a long history. Is it the same thing as cold water immersion as well?
Yes. Yep. It's all part and parcel to it. It's something that, like, you see a lot of bros do it online right now. Like, it's become really, really popular to do, like the whole joke is, it is possible to take an ice bath and not post about it on Instagram.
But apparently you have not found that, because I see you posted on Instagram all the time.
Now, for the record, I haven't posted one in a while because I was publicly shamed into silence. So,
well, we were fascinated sitting here watching every day going, is he getting in the damn water again? What is wrong with him? And then I found out 2 of my brother-in-laws do this as well on the regular.
It's something that I've done for several years, but it's something that I started doing regularly, probably about a year ago, almost every day, trying to get into the cold plunge. And
you do it every day? Just
about every day. Yeah.
Holy cow. Okay. So when you talk about the history of it, when you talk about these countries, they seem to be cold countries that are doing it. Is that part of the reason why they're doing it? Because
yes and no, not always, especially for a lot of like the Indigenous American communities. They will do it. And the way I do it has alternating hot and cold therapy to it as well in different variations. Okay. But they would do it in like sweat lodges and use it as part of a way to regulate your body temperature while they were doing a sweat lodge. They would take other, chemical substances and then be in the sweat lodge having that experience and then go jump into like a running river or creek who's, even in the summertime, standing water or running water is probably in like the 40-degree temperature range, and then go back into the sweat lodge again so that they could last another couple hours as part of their religious ceremonies.
Interesting. Okay. I did not know that. Now walk me through how it works. Like, what do you do? Tell me, like, from the beginning to the end, what happens with this process?
So the basic principle is, it's submersion up to the neck in any water that's less than 50 degrees.
It's got 50 degrees.
For a total of 11 minutes over the course of a week, collectively. So
okay, so you're only getting in for a few minutes at a time.
I go above and beyond. Like, I'm in it for probably 6 to 9 minutes total. In the summertime, I'll be in for longer just because it feels good. But to get the maximum benefit of it, submersion up to the neck, sub 50-degree temperatures for anywhere from 90 seconds to 3 minutes at a time, and then you can get out. So there's a couple of different reactions that happen when you get in, and it's all done. Like, I know when I do it by myself now, like, I know what my body can handle. I have some things that I've done. I did it initially with a coach and a friend first that helped me kind of adjust to it and learn what my body's going to react and what practices were safe. So
really,
I actually get into it all winter long. It'll be snowing sideways outside. The air temperature will be 28 degrees and the water temperature will be 32.5 degrees. I've literally pulled inches worth of ice off the top of my cold plunge and still got in it in the wintertime. If you look at the Banksy Talks Instagram page, you'll see some of those videos. I've had friends come over that want to try it. I've gotten into like cold running creeks and done it in like Highland and Alpine, Utah, just to experience like the natural running water. It energizes you. The big thing that most people talk about is the dopamine spike that you get from it.
Yeah.
So when you get in, your body has the initial spike of adrenaline. That's your natural reaction. You have a fight or flight reflex that your body immediately goes into. And that's when you start having that shortness of breath. When you first get in, that's that shock reaction, your body going, holy crap, there's something wrong. I shouldn't be here. And you have that initial spike of adrenaline.
Right.
Once you get through that initial spike and that initial reaction, which for me now takes about 20 to 30 seconds to get through.
Was it like
the
that
body
the first
has
time?
between 15 and 18 minutes of cold exposure before anything negative happens to you.
What is that? Was that how long it took? Did it last that long when you first started doing it? You said
it was longer when I first started doing it. Oh yeah.
Okay.
It took me over a minute to kind of get to that calm breathing stage from that shock reaction when I first got in it. I was first doing it like in the summertime when it was, 90 degrees out and we were dumping 20-pound bags of ice in the cold plunge to get the water down to the proper temperature. But it's still, take your breath away cold. Like it should be take your breath away cold when you get in it. So your body has that initial adrenaline reaction, and then the long-term effect of it is the dopamine spikes in your body anywhere between 200 to 400%. And the dopamine is the mental clarity chemical that your body releases that gives you focus, it gives you stamina, it gives you clarity of thought, it breeds creativity. It's the reason why people do cocaine, because when you do cocaine, dopamine is the chemical signature reactor in that, except that when you do cocaine, the initial spike lasts for about 20 minutes, and then you have to do more and more and more cocaine to get that same dopamine spike. When you cold plunge, it spikes between 200 to 400% every time you get in, and it lasts for between 4 and 6 hours when you get into the cold plunge.
I understand the feeling because I've gotten in cold water before when I've been camping and been,
I thought for a second you were like, because I've done cocaine. I'm glad you clarified.
No, when
I know your boyfriend likes to go fishing out in the rivers and the creeks. I'm sure you've got in cold water with him before.
Yeah, you get in the water and then you do, but it's miserable for a few minutes, but you stay in it, and then when you get out, you do actually feel this crazy goodness from the inside, and I guess that's the dopamine. Are there other health benefits for it? Like, I understand that it could possibly help you if you are an athlete.
There are tons of like recovery benefits that go along with it, and there's a couple different layers for what happens. So after that dopamine spike, when you get in and you can breathe, and there's lots of different theories about the way that you should breathe and how you should breathe. The famous, Iceman Wim Hof has a lot of breathing techniques that he does, and they've done like scientific studies on this guy, Wim Hof, WIM.
Okay.
HOFF.
What are his breathing techniques?
So he has a lot of really like fast breathing techniques, like hyperventilating breathing techniques that are like almost like Lamaze, like 80s style moms giving birth Lamaze breathing techniques.
That's what it seems like.
In the reading that I've done, and I've read hundreds of articles about this just for my own personal education, there is a risk when you breathe the way that he does, specifically in those cold temperatures, because you run the risk of hyperventilation and blacking out. He's actually gotten into some trouble with some practitioners having health issues for that. And he really advocates for prolonged and sustained exposure into the cold. And I don't think that's necessarily healthy. Get in, you hit that 3 minutes, get out, and max time anywhere between 12 and 15 minutes, and then get out and allow your body to warm up naturally. But
you get into a hot tub afterwards.
I get into a hot tub, I'll get into the shower, I'll get into a sauna. In the summertime, I'll just lay on the grass in the sun and let the sun warm me up, because that's the best feeling in the world. The more you can naturally let your body warm up, the better it is. The hot tub's not the most preferred method to warm up, because when you're submerged in hot water, as opposed to being in the shower or in the sauna, your body has a harder time regulating its own temperature because you can't sweat in a hot tub.
Okay.
And so that's your body's natural way of removing heat and managing its core temperature is to sweat. And so when you're submerged in water, your body and your skin can't feel that reaction. So it has a harder time warming up. But I will get in it, and I'll actually do 3 rounds of alternating hot cold therapy, either between the sauna. My neighbor has a sauna, and we cold plunge together. Or we'll do the hot tub depending on the season.
So are you doing it for 9 minutes each time? Like you get in the cold water for 9 minutes, then get in the sauna, then get back in the cold?
No, I'll get it for 3 minutes for a total of 9. So I'll get in for 3 minutes, get back in the hot tub. And sometimes that's it. Sometimes I'll do 1 round. But when I'm really kind of in the zone and feeling it and being really productive, I'll make sure I try and get like the 3 rounds back and forth and and alternate between the hot and cold. Because like you mentioned, for like athletic recovery, athletes, especially like if you've ever been a D1 athlete or a top tier athlete, you've known the benefits of cold plunging for a long time. They put you in ice baths. It reduces inflammation at such a high level that it allows your body and your muscles to heal and recover because they're not inflamed and full of acid. It expels all the toxins out of your muscles and your recovery system. And one thing a lot of people don't realize too, when you get into the cold, is there is a liver reaction that your liver has where it actually pumps out proteins to all of your major organs. That's the equivalent of getting a night's sleep full of recovery.
Really?
So you talk about getting in the cold and the dopamine spike, right? Like the mental health.
Yeah.
And then you talk about the adrenaline spike and all of those things that help you feel good in the short term. But in the long term, your body's actually doing things that it thinks it's doing to protect your heart, your lungs, your brain, your kidney, your liver, your stomach, your intestinal tract, all of those things to keep them operating, all those core non-sympathetic reflexes in your body that need that autoimmune kind of drive, right? There's the things that we volunteer to do, and there's the things our body does automatically. All those automatic systems are protected by this protein in the liver, and it helps heal them, protect them, and energize them, almost to the equivalent of getting like an 8 or 9 hour night's sleep.
You make it sound so wonderful, but I don't want to do it.
That's the
wonderful benefits.
That's the other side of the challenge of this. And people ask me all the time, like, why do you get into the water when it's so cold? And a couple of other like people who are way more well-read and well-spoken than I am, like Joe Rogan talks about it. He just goes, because it's hard and I feel like a badass when I do it. Joe Rogan's been a big proponent of it for a long time. He has a really nice cold plunge in his yard. I have a cheap $100 one. I wish I could have a nice one like he has. It would be awesome.
So you actually went and bought a contraption for this. It's not like you're getting in a tub in your.
No, I'm not getting like a horse trough. It's an insulated cold water specific tub that I can keep fresh water in. You know, I live at the top of the mountain. My house is almost 7,000 feet above sea level in altitude. So the water stays pretty cold even in the summertime. So it's an easy thing for me to get into. You don't have to get into the water when it's 30 something, 40 something degrees. Like I said, anything below 55 degrees will give you that max benefit. That's cold. Water below 70 degrees feels cold to the body. You know, your body temperature's 98, 99 degrees, depending on what your, typical resting core temperature is. Women run a little hotter than men do typically, so it's, anything below that temperature is going to feel cold when you get in it. I like to get in it when it's frigid and freezing, just for the mental trial of convincing myself to do hard shit.
Okay, gotcha.
That's really there's a savageness to it, knowing that like if I can convince myself to get into a tub when every instinct in my body says, "Hey dummy, you shouldn't be doing that. That's like a life or death situation. That's risky." And then knowing I can do that, anything else I face during the day in our pampered and comfortable first world problems life, is going to be easy after that.
That's how I felt when I went bungee jumping. Literally,
it's that same mental challenge, just a little less life-threatening than bungee jumping.
Yeah. So when you're in the tub and you're sitting there for the 3 to 9 minutes or however long you end up doing it, what do you do while you're in there?
So I just meditate and breathe. I focus specifically on nasal breathing, breathing in and out and exhaling through your nose and making it as long and slow a process as I can. If I can get down to somewhere between 5 and 6 breaths a minute, I feel like I'm doing really well. Like normally when I'm just resting and sitting, I'm at about 6, 7, or 8 full slow breaths a minute. But it's focusing on your body absorbs 30% more oxygen when you breathe and inhale through your nose and use diaphragmatic breathing rather than just breathing through your mouth and breathing through your lungs.
Huh. So you're not like sitting there reading a book then?
No, no. I will sit and, think about the day, think about what I have going on. And sometimes I try not to think about anything and I'll just breathe. And it's really hard when you first get in because of that shock. So I'll try and take 2 quick, like mouth breaths, like just go and that exhale, and then calm myself down and mentally take control of my body in that survival mechanism, and then just breathe and take as long and slow as I can. And at first it sucks because you're taking really short breaths because your body's having this reaction, but it's that 3 to 4 second inhale with a 2 to 3 second pause. And then you make the exhale longer than the inhale when you do it. And then you try and extend that longer and longer as you go through, to the point where you're having like an almost 10-second inhale like a 5-second pause and like a 15-second exhale by the time you're done. And you're just sitting there in the cold, doing these little micro movements so that the thermal layer doesn't build up around your body and you keep that cold reaction. And then when the timer goes off, usually I just put a song on. And when that song's over, the average song's about 3.5 minutes long. And I know that by the time, Van Morrison Brown Eyed Girl is done, okay, I made it 3 minutes.
Well, you obviously don't have asthma because that's a lot of slow breathing.
It can help. It can help with a lot of things. I won't say there's a lot of people out there that will claim it'll cure and heal all these things. I won't say that, but I will say for me, I've played competitive sport for a long time, a lot like you with your history playing roller derby and now all the physical work that you do, like owning your horse stables and all those things that you do. Like when you get into that place mentally where you're battered and bruised and broken, whether it's an ailment that is, what's the word I'm looking for? Something that you can't control, right? Something that you're born with, something that you've got. It's not something that you volunteer, that's voluntary. The word is escaping me right now, but
like my asthma, as opposed to me hurting because I'm lifting bales of hay.
Right, exactly. It can help improve both, because really all you're doing is exercising those systems. When you're in the cold and you start breathing, all of the micro muscles around all your blood vessels are contracting and tight. And as you mentally focus and breathe, they will open back up. And just like any other muscle, you have to work those muscles in order to maintain their health. So your entire cardiovascular system, when you get into the cold water, gets a workout that otherwise it wouldn't get. And if you are consciously working out and improving any muscular system, you're going to see improvement, and whether that's recovery from injury, recovery from strenuous work, whether you're just, a blue collar physical worker, or you are working out in the gym, whether you have, an ailment like asthma or something else, you can improve and do a lot of things to make your situation better. It may not cure your asthma, right? Like I would never say that. I'm obviously not a doctor in any way, shape, or form. But by not doing those things, you're certainly not helping yourself get better.
Okay. All right.
I'm Lexi, and this is Delightfully Different. This week, I'm talking with Jared, who does a daily cold plunge.
Tell me about the first time you did it and why.
The first time I did it, I mean, I've done it for years with rugby, but we just did it because it was something our trainers did.
Okay.
Like when we were playing,
not
like you would
new
just,
for you then.
we would go sit. I mean, I've played rugby since I was a teenager, and it was something that there was always, a barrel sitting there or a tub or something, a water trough, just dumping full of ice in it. And as part of your, heavy day, heavy contact recovery, you just go sit in the ice bath for 7 minutes and then get out, go get a hot shower and go, because it would just help with muscle recovery. So I had done it with that standpoint in mind, but from like a mental standpoint, from like a self-help, mental awareness, self-betterment, self-care kind of thing.
Yeah.
The first time I did it was probably 3 or 4 years ago. Well, no, probably even more than that. Probably 5 or 6 years ago, if I think about it now. And it was my neighbor across the street that actually helped introduce me to it. And it started with us just like going hiking together and like jumping in creeks and waterfalls and stuff. And at first you just think it's fun. And then he goes, no, there's actually a benefit to this. The Japanese have been doing it for centuries, especially with some of the different Buddhist and Taoist monks have been standing and meditating in waterfalls for this exact reason, for these same mental health clarity benefits. And so the first time I did it, it was more just like fun and play. And then you realize that there is a benefit to it, and you focus more on the mental aspect of it. And you kind of like grow a little introspectively and kind of get more and more involved in it, to the point where you find yourself in a snowstorm going outside and talking yourself to go sit in a cold plunge.
And then putting it on Instagram.
And putting it on Instagram for the world to see, to think I'm a crazy talker.
You bought the tub though last year. You had the tub for about a year, and you said it costs about $100.
The one I got costs about $100. You can get them on like Alibaba for less. If I had to go back and do it again, I like the one I have. It's not the most durable, especially for my size. Like I'm 6'3" and 270 pounds. It's about, I've hit the limits of what it could do. There are other products out there that I would like to get, but you can get anything ranging from, a water trough at Cal Ranch for $75 that you can get in, to the ones that like the celebrities use, the Joe Rogans and the Mark Wahlbergs of the world. Mark Wahlberg's another big like celebrity proponent of it. He gets in it. Russell Brand has one that he gets in every day. Their units, I think, cost like $25,000-$30,000. Like they're more expensive than like a hot tub. And you know, there are these fully enclosed units that keep the water at a very specific temperature and circulate and filter. And there's all kinds of fancy stuff they do.
Yeah, is yours like inflatable?
Yeah, so it has an inflatable ring and side stanchions on it. It's got 6 poles on it.
Oh, okay.
So the inflatable ring gives it its initial shape, and then the side support so that the vinyl doesn't bow out, and then just the weight of the water holds it up the rest of the time. And it holds about, I think it's about 30 gallons, 25, 30 gallons of water is what I put in it, and then I fill it up.
Water in there all the time?
Yeah, I leave the water in it all the time. They make chillers and filters for them that you can get now. I put a little just hot tub chlorine in it and keep it swirling, and I found I can go probably 3 or 4 weeks without having to change it.
And does it have a filter and whatnot?
Mine doesn't. It has the adapter and everything for it. I don't have a filter for it, but
and then you make it cold by actually pouring ice cubes in it.
I don't have to yet, but pretty soon here, like I mean, it's supposed to snow like at my house tomorrow. We're supposed to get like 2 inches of snow at the house. I won't have to put ice in it probably for another month. But when we do, like, I'll go down to the store and get 2 20-pound bags of ice and put all of the ice in the tub and stir it around before I get in it. So it'll drop that temperature pretty quick. And
do you get in naked?
No, I have, but you know, my backyard has like a public park behind it.
So it's due to being seen, not due to hurting your wiener.
If it was in a more private spot, I 100% would. I'm not above that. Like, I think it's more natural and raw to do that. But like when I'm out in the backyard, especially when you talk about like the co-practice of grounding and being out, like connected to the earth barefoot, you know, and allowing that energy transfer to happen electrically, there are benefits to doing it outside, and it's just easy. You know, my neighbors think I'm nuts because I'll be out there in the snow barefoot and you know, in my rugby shorts, jumping in with no shirt on, just going and putting everything away like it's nothing, and the cold just doesn't seem to affect you as bad, or it does, and you just don't care at that point.
And you never put your head under. The head is always out. You go up to your neck.
No, I'll do head dunks in it as well, or, you know, I'll splash my head. There are other perks that come to, you know, going in a full immersion situation, but it's not safe to stay submerged for long periods of time or repetitively. Like, it's not safe to go down and come back up and take a breath and go down and come back up and take a breath. Oh, okay. It's something that over the course of 3 minutes, I might do once or twice per plunge to activate that parasympathetic reflex in your body to engage that reaction.
Okay. And does it hurt your hands and your feet or like the small extremities?
No, it doesn't. Cause you're not in long enough to really it feels cold. Like you definitely feel like the tingly cold feeling of the water. But you know, unless you're in it for a prolonged exposure, there's no real significant pain.
Okay.
That goes along with it. It's actually helped relieve a lot of pain. You know, I have a lower back problem that's bothered me for a long time. And there's days now where I get up and my back doesn't hurt at all. And a lot of that is the reduction in inflammation that you get from being submerged up to the neck, where your body like flushes all those toxins as a survival mechanism, and it cleans out your system, where, you know, the stress and the tension, a lot of those things that you hold are now alleviated from repetitive cold plunge.
What does your family think? You've got 2 teenage boys and a wife. What do they think?
I think I'm nuts.
Have they tried it?
Oh yeah. Like actually Sarah will get in, you know, she doesn't get in like I do, but she'll get in once a month when the weather's nice and do it, especially when the neighbor's wife comes over. My neighbor, Ed Harold, wrote an incredible book called Life with Breath. That's one of the things that kind of kickstarted me on this journey. And his wife, Wendy, they'll come over with their dog and we'll hang out in the backyard and stretch and talk and just talk about life and things like that. But one of the big things we do is cold plunge, and she's really good about connecting with Sarah and talking her into doing it, because
she's got to be talked into it.
because for her specifically, like doing that hard thing helps with people who have like high levels of anxiety, stress, for people who have depression, for people who have these other mental disorders.
Yeah.
The commitment to make a hard physical task a repetitive one in your life. I don't know what the science is behind it, but the research seems to suggest that there are significant benefits mentally as well as physically to being able to do that, specifically when tied to like anxiety and ADHD. A lot of that may have to do with the spike in dopamine, obviously, but the correlations aren't crystal clear there with it. So I don't want to spout nonsense.
What, and the kids, will the kids get in?
So the kid, like, both my kids are athletes. My 14-year-old is playing on the high school soccer team as a freshman this year, and he'll come back and he has zero desire to do it since it's been cold out, but he'll get in on like if he's played in like a multi-day tournament, if he's had a really rough practice or a really rough game, he's a goalkeeper. So if he's hit the ground a lot and he's feeling really beat up, he'll actually ask to get in it and he'll be like, Dad, I think I need a cold plunge. So we'll jump in the hot tub, let his body relax, and then go get in the cold plunge. With kids, though, it's real. You have to be more careful even than adults. I don't let my kids stay in as long as I stay in. Like my kids will stay in just long enough till they have control of their breath. And that's my indicator that they're okay and it's time for them to get out. So it takes them a little longer to react. Their systems are still developing. They're still a little more fragile, even though, Nugget is 14 years old. He's 6'1" and weighs 145, 150 pounds now. Like he's it's been a minute since you've seen the kid, Lex.
It's been about a year. Yeah.
He's taller than you are.
Oh man, that's crazy.
He still has a developing system that's not at its full capacity and won't be until he's about 25, 26 years old. Men and women don't physically fully develop until they are in their mid-20s. Right. So it's best at that point, like especially with my 10-year-old, when he gets in, I only let them stay in as long as it takes for them to control their breath. So they have that shock reaction. I get them down into their neck, they're submerged, and once they're breathing calm and focused and stable on their own, then I get them out and I allow them to warm up.
So those are the risks for a young person. Are there downsides or risks for adults?
If you have like low blood pressure and things like that, it's not the most ideal thing to do. There are risks to it. It's not a cure-all. It's not a magical, ancient holistic elixir that's going to fix all your problems. If you have low blood pressure, if you have diabetes and are prone to low blood sugar, it's also something that you should be careful with because of the risks for blacking out. Especially with low blood pressure, because, the drowning risk is high. You are submerged to the neck in water. You black out and you spend 30 seconds under the water, you take one breath in, and that's lights out forever. So there are things you need to be careful with. There's also some studies that suggest that the repetitive cold plunging and the reduction in inflammation in your body, if you have arthritis or other chronic issues, chronic was the word I was looking for earlier.
Yeah, there you go.
If you have other chronic issues like that your body might not be able to regulate the inflammation as much on its own because it learns to become dependent on the activity of cold plunging for that relief.
Interesting.
There's ongoing studies with that, though, that haven't been confirmed yet. So.
Well, and I've also read that, you do it every day. I've read that most other people don't do it every day. This is something that they're maybe doing once a week or maybe twice a week.
Yeah. So to get the maximum benefit of it, you only have to be in for a total of 11 minutes over the course of 7 days.
So it's really just the minutes, not the how often you're doing it.
It's the total amount of time that you spend submerged to allow your body to react properly. So it needs that collective time,
Okay.
So if you get in for 2 minutes at a time, that means you have to get in for 5 days, right? To get that total of 11 minutes. If you get in for 3 minutes at a time, you only have to get in for 3 days and change. If you do it twice a week, you're going to be spending a little longer in it, but there are the safe parameters and everybody has to learn what their own safe parameters are for how your body's going to react. I can go get in it now. And I know I can sit in it for 7, 8, 9 minutes at a time, especially when the weather's warm. I've sat in it for 10 or 12 minutes before and not even flinched and just meditated, focused, and been able to breathe through any of that physical shock and trauma and have never had a negative issue or a negative incident with it.
What do you say to people that think you're crazy?
I probably am a little bit.
Okay, that's a good answer. When you said you were shamed off of posting it on Instagram and you haven't posted it for a while, what did they say to you? Who shamed you?
Well, a lot of it was a bunch of friends that actually do it. They're like, you don't have to post every time you get in, Jared. You're making us look bad. And I'm like, no. So I went to, and if you see the hat, it says Light the Fuse. I went to a men's retreat in Dallas last summer. where we were together with 30 other, mostly military veterans and first responder veterans in Dallas, Texas, around a lake. And it was all about experiencing and gaining exposure to different modalities of physical and mental healing.
Okay.
So we tried a lot of different things over the course of 3 days. And one of those was the breathing and ice bath exposure that I was already exposed to. And it really kind of reignited that spark in me. If it connects with you like it did with me, great, go for it. But there are a million other things out there, especially when you talk about holistic medicines, methods, and practices.
Yeah.
You know, there's people that love to go do hot yoga. That's why. You know, there's people that love to, you know, just go hiking. That, you know, whatever it is that works for you, go for it. You know, at 45 years old, I've realized that none of us have the answers to anything, that we're all just kind of making it up as we go. And if it works for you, go for it, because we're all a little weird.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on right there. Thank you. Thank you for the interview, old friend.
I love you.
There are links to some of the things that we talked about, including how to watch Jared take his ice baths wherever you get this podcast. There are ice bath tubs for sale all over the internet, ranging from about $100 to more than a car costs. There have only been small studies done about the health benefits of ice baths. There's not enough evidence that says it's healthy, but there's also not enough that says it's not. The people that do it say it makes them feel good. If you're going to give it a try, talk to your doctor or an expert first so you don't end up frozen in a tub in your backyard. Thanks for joining me this week on Delightfully Different. If you or someone you know lives life differently, I'd love an interview. Email me, lexiontheradio@gmail.com. That's LEXI ontheradio@gmail.com, or go to delightfullydifferentpodcast.com and have a delightful week.